Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nopia. My NPM 1922-02059. I'm from class 2019 B3 and I'm studying at Ikip Siliwangi. Today I want to explain about the role of the interpreter. For the first, I want to explain the definition of the role. Role is a social science construct used to explain behavior and examine attitudes between at least two participants in any social situation. The concept of role is inseparable from the idea of reciprocity. That the pair present, such as teacher and student, lawyer and client, and etc. The point is that each of these roles only exists in relation to the other. Second, comparison with other professional and social roles. As in professional roles, reciprocal relationship is taken for granted, but the interpreter must maintain the role in relation to two clients and continually switch between them. Consequently, each client must not see the interpreter as a conveyor of information between client and interpreter, but must accept the interaction for what it is, a discussion between clients. Thus, the interpreter's role is both vicarious, being performed for two clients. Third, the interpreting interaction. In this section, an interpret interaction will be examined with a view to highlighting the aspect which improve on the role of the interpreter. We can assume that there is a motivation or communicate for the achievement of goals which are shared, at least to some extent, by the interlocutors. This implies a number of features such as a linear ones common to all communication between two people, namely the tendency to turn-taking, the necessity for a feedback loop, the inevitable noise, and other common possibilities and pitfalls. The feature peculiar to interpret interaction can be looked at as a normal communication situation with two loops, one which involves client 1 and the interpreter, and the other which involves client 2 and the interpreter. However, this model does not actually reflect the dynamics of an interpret situation. The motivation and the need for communication stem from both clients and not the interpreter, and the elements of communication flow does not need to operate in the same way when interactions are interpreted. Fourth, the concept of clients. An interpreter has at least two clients at any expertise. Theoretically, they have equal claim on the interpreter's expertise, irrespective of considerations such as who arranged for the interpreter to be present, who is paying the interpreter, who has briefed the interpreter, and the concept of client relies on an understanding of the fundamental part which an interpreter plays in interaction. It is precisely because there is no such general communication understanding amongst potential clients that it is an issue at all. It is understandable that the person calling an interpreter feels that by expressing a need to communicate with the other person. They have taken the initiative and have the right to some measure of control over the interpreter. In most cases, the employment of an interpreter is from the client point of view a rare event. There is a little motivation for these clients to be sympathetic the interpreter's concerns, especially signs. There can be no measure of how such a concern might have affect outcomes. Fifth, creation of the role. The client sees the interpreter as a language converter, not as someone who is concerned with communication. hence the model of a tap which can be turned on and off at will and which will produce language and any language. The interpreter is seen only in terms of language competence, and conversely, the assumption is made that the language competence is tantamount to interpreting competence. Furthermore, the client's regard is likely to depend on the number of language they believe the interpreter speaks. And the last, interpreting and translating. The difference between interpreting and translating is only the difference in the medium. The interpreter translates orally, while the translator interprets written text. Both interpreting and translating presuppose a certain love of language and deep knowledge of more than one language. In creating the role of interpreter or translator, we must contend with this misapprehension as well as with the well-worn and conception the language competence is the same as interpreting or translating competence. Okay, I think that's all about the role of the interpreter. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.